One of the most popular people in the alternative music scene community on YouTube, Finn Mckenty, also known as the Punk Rock MBA, is currently in some big drama because he stated that he never cared about music in the first place and only did the entire channel for money.
Like, is that why you started making videos, just because of all the negativity?
No, it's because I don't really have any interest in music, so I was just doing it for the money, and I hit my financial goals, and so there's really just no reason for me. Like, I don't have to keep doing it.
And I think it's actually a lot more complicated than Finn Mckenty himself is leading people to believe. So today I thought it'd be interesting for me to talk about it as a fan of his content who actually watched a decent amount of his videos. So as you guys know, I'm a bit of a music fan. All right, I'm a bit of a music fan. You know, certain kinds of music, I would say like rock, metal, that genre, that area of stuff, right? Hard rock, kind of light metal, a lot of metalcore, stuff like that is what I like a lot. And there's an individual who was probably the biggest guy in the scene, I would say, in the scene of making videos about that. And his name is Finn Mckenty of the Punk Rock MBA. All right, here he is. Now, I've actually had a very, at one point, I think I had a pleasant interaction with this guy. I think he said that he liked my videos. And this is back when I was in college. When I was in college, I think I messaged him and I sent him some video I had made about music, which was for college. And I was like, do you think I should post this on YouTube? He gave me some feedback. So that's the extent of my interactions with this guy. But he's a pretty big channel, I would say, all things considered. So this guy, Finn Mckenty, pretty big channel. He essentially, the biggest thing he was known for is making like rise and fall videos a lot of the time about different bands. Like he would make like the history of AFI, the history of Blink. Here he'd also do more just like kind of, I'd say videos about like what made genres fall off, like what killed nu metal. Obviously, nu metal was really popular 20 years ago, but it's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence lately, so that video did well. We need to talk about Ronnie Radke, singer of Falling in Reverse, guy who is currently, I think, engaged in a legal dispute with Anthony Fantano. We've got that. So I would watch his videos because I like them, and some of them were, I would say, it's a lot of it's very surface level knowledge about these bands, but it was entertaining enough that I watched it and I liked it, right? I didn't hate it. And he also, sometimes he would have interesting analysis about like what killed a genre or what made it not popular anymore, the different factors involved there, right? And he got pretty big doing it. I mean, he's at, let's see here, 600,000 subscribers, which is pretty big, I would say, for a music channel. And, there were people who didn't like him for sure. He's definitely had some haters. I think in his videos, he would often talk about like, oh, the Reddit guys didn't like this one. Oh, the Reddit guys didn't like this one. But you may have noticed he hasn't uploaded in 3 months. And I was watching a lot of his videos and it seemed like he was kind of phoning it in a little bit. He wasn't trying like he used to. But, he would still post videos that, they did well enough that it's worth making. I mean, he was making money off of it, certainly. He was kind of retreading a lot of ideas. Like, I feel like he made this, like, the problem with metalcore video, like 8 different times, right? But recently, he's been losing a lot of subscribers on his channel. Not that many, but he has lost some, right? He had 611,000. Looks like here he lost 1,000. Here he lost 4,000, 2,000. And so a lot of people are just like, they're kind of falling off this guy. They don't like him anymore. Can you feed me soup, please? Yes, I can feed you soup. And it's kind of for an interesting reason. I thought it's for an interesting reason why people don't like him anymore, which is that they believe, because of his own words, that he never cared about music in the first place. It didn't matter to him. It was not something he cared about. He was a poser, and he was just making these videos for money the entire time. And I'm going to go into this with the opinion, which I'll try to validate with time, that I think that's a bit of a reductive take. I don't think that's entirely true. But in fairness, the reason why people think that is because of things that Finn himself has said. So if you haven't been watching his videos, you probably would have that take. Skibbity hawk to a hawk skibbity king who gives the blumpkins edging and gooning and learning to munt dripping cheese all over my lunch. Thank you very much. All your videos get me through my jobs where I have little human contact. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Got any recommendations? I honestly don't like podcasts that much. I mean, there are podcasts I listen to here and there, but like I haven't been listening to any podcasts recently. Also, shout out to your cat Phantom. Hello. Do you watch Gray Mads now and then? Yeah, I've seen some Gray Mads videos. But yeah. A lot of people are talking about this guy. In fact, the drama is so big that Anthony Fantano on his second channel made a video about it that has almost 800,000 views. Like, there's so much chatter around this individual. Your facial hair looks like a piece of candy that fell on the floor. That's true. But so I'm curious to watch what Fantano said and kind of give my own take, because I feel like there's a lot going on here that maybe was not totally covered in Mr. Fantano's video. That's my thoughts. Just curious, why do you have so many roller chairs? I've always had these chairs. The thing is, I've just gotten a lot of new chairs. So like I'll get a chair, have it for 6 months, get a new chair. And right now we're on this chair, and I like this chair, but eventually I'll probably get a new chair. But this is the best and most expensive chair I've ever gotten to date. Okay. This is one of the most expensive things I own. This is a $1,400 chair, and it is a very nice chair. I do like this chair. What happened to Finn? Well, we're going to find out today. You got to turn on the audio here.
Man down, man down, man down. Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Let's talk about a bit of a tectonic shift that just happened on music YouTube. A fellow content creator on this platform who for a long time, really for a period of years, has operated in the music space, has recently called it quits. No more YouTube or music or even Twitch content. Totally done. Kaput. Talking about Mr. Finn Mckenty, aka the Punk Rock MBA. Finn is somebody whose content I have consumed for a minute. He is somebody who I have done some crossover content with. I have literally met this man in person. And
really? I didn't know that. A lot of people in chat saying you hate Fantano. I definitely, I was definitely a much bigger fan of Fantano when he was doing the That Is the Plan stuff, the meme reviews. I definitely was more of a fan of him when That Is a Plan was coming out in the earlier days. I did a video about him called Anthony Fantano Counterculture Cannibalism a while ago, where I kind of made the case that seemingly because of an article that Fader wrote about him, trying to cancel him for being alt-right, it seems like it kind of traumatized him, and he became very, very scared of doing anything remotely edgy. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like since then he's been slightly dishonest about that channel, the That Is a Plan channel. But regardless, I have been watching some Fantano videos recently, and to be honest, they're not bad. They're not bad. I like them. I don't really care for his music reviews. I never cared that much for his music reviews, But I do like some of the videos on this channel. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Do I agree with the politics? No. But he has said some things and made some salient points that I think are interesting, and he's generally pretty decent as far as like a guy who's talking about things going on in the music world. Be real? Was that Brody in the Mr. Beast show? What do you mean, be real? Was that... What does that even mean?
Watched his channel from afar, and regardless of whether or not he covered artists that I like, regardless of whether or not he expressed musical or even political opinions that I personally agreed with, he was somebody who was very persistent and consistent with his content release schedule, with what I saw to be his content quality. Disagreements aside, he was somebody who, I don't know, I didn't really have a whole lot of smoke for, because he just seemed like somebody who worked really hard at what he did and knew what he was doing when it came to just making music content.
And that's definitely true. I mean, if you look at Finn's channel, I mean, this guy was relentless with an upload schedule for a while. I feel like he was uploading 2 20-minute videos a week. And, they're not super hard to make. It's not like they have the most amazing research or anything. A lot of it's very, surface level knowledge, but he was very, very consistent for years. And, I think that's a problem with a lot of music channels, because a lot of music channels are run by musicians. The musicians are artists, and they have a very artistic approach to their content, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what it does mean is that they're very picky about certain details and certain aspects of their stuff. They don't want to, quote unquote, sell out, and feel like they're making content just for what the audience wants. And Finn did not really have reservations about that. He was consistently putting out content all the time. And some of these videos are videos I liked quite a bit. I thought they were pretty interesting. And there were, once again, this is why I think that maybe the takes around are a bit reductive right now. I have seen videos of his where he clearly did care about some of the bands he was talking about. I could be wrong, but I think he's kind of what got me into A Day to Remember. I think he made a video about A Day to Remember like 6 or 7 years ago, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, sounds like an interesting band. I've never really heard them before, and I heard some clips of their music in the video. And I was like, that's cool. And then I got really into them, and they became my favorite band for a few years. And they still are. I was listening to them just on the car right here. So definitely, I don't think that every video he's made is just a complete fraud, but we'll get into that.
I mean, for anybody who is uninitiated, the brand proposition for a Finn Mckenty, for a Punk Rock MBA, was essentially that he was, as a content creator, marrying his passion for music and his background as somebody who was involved and engrossed in the underground West Coast music scene decades ago. You take that and combine it with his background as somebody who successfully has worked for years in marketing, and you get an analysis that sort of tries to understand and contextualize why certain artists and music music movements, be they underground or mainstream, took off or got popular, where they went after sort of like the wave crested. I mean, Finn.
And like one interesting thing that Finn did is he had a marketing background, right? I think he was a marketing major. He would often talk about his work in the marketing world. And one of the things he would talk about with bands was not just like their music. He would talk about the packaging of what they would do, which is like, okay, so you've got the music itself. How does the music connect to the broader brand of like, the album cover and the way they look on stage and their live shows and the whole mystique around them, right? Like he would talk about the packaging of, let's say, a band like Slipknot, which is a band that has a very unique appearance, I would say. Obviously when nu metal was a thing, you had other bands that were kind of, all doing the mask thing. There were a few bands, but they were the best one. They had the best packaging, and it connected the best with the sound of their music, and their branding was very good. And he would talk about all that from a marketing perspective of like what made the band succeed outside of just the music, which I thought was a very interesting analysis that you don't always see. Are you going to address the Ocarina of Time allegations? I have no idea what you're talking about. Also, did you see the new Superman trailer? I did. I'm not a huge Superman fan, but it's directed by James Gunn. It looked kind of cool. I was surprised to see Crypto the Superdog in there. I'm excited for that movie, I'll say. I feel like I'm, the thing is, guys, I criticize these soy boy type guys, but at the end of the day, I mean, you just look at me. I'm them. That's me. I'm like one standard deviation away from being them. I shave my facial hair. I get a little bit fat. That could easily be me. So, at the end of the day, I do like soy, and I am excited for the Superman movie.
Did have a history of making pretty thorough and usually well-received videos, which is why it's kind of shocking for certain comments to come to light in this recent interview he did with hardcore and underground rock commentator Jesse Lee.
Is that why you started making videos, just because of all the negativity?
No, it's because like I don't really have any interest in music, so I was just doing it for the money, and I hit my financial goals. And so there's really just no reason for me. Like, I don't have to keep doing it. I'm not, our time on this earth is limited. Like, don't spend it doing you don't have to do if you don't want to, It's like I made enough money from this. I don't have to keep making videos about System of a Down. So I'm going to stop.
Man, so you really didn't enjoy it at all? There's just like no part of you that was like, oh, I'm excited to talk about this band today or anything like that. It was always just completely transactional for you?
Yeah, I don't have any interest in music at all.
You don't miss it.
The thing is, I don't really buy that as an explanation, though. Like, maybe now that's the case. Maybe he doesn't have an interest because he's just done so many videos about music artists. But there's no doubt that he's done videos where he cared about music. Like, when I've heard this guy talk about bands he really likes, like in particular, for example, A Day to Remember, you can tell that this guy actually likes that band. You can tell that he does give a shit, right? Like, there are bands he talks about where it'll be like, he'll openly say, like, I don't give a fuck about Slipknot on his podcast, and then he'll make, like, a video about Slipknot because he knows it'll do well, and that much is obvious, right? But, like, there's no doubt to me that there are bands that he actually likes quite a bit and spends time talking about. It's not all just, like, a facade. Like, I really don't buy that he just never cared in the first place. That doesn't really sit right with me. My take on it is probably that he saw, YouTube as an opportunity. There were bands he wanted to talk about that he cared about. There were also bands he didn't care about, but he knew that, they would get views if he talked about Limp Bizkit or Korn or, My Chemical Romance, whatever band that the youngins are obsessed with right now. But like, even like Good Charlotte, like he clearly liked Good Charlotte. When I watched that video, you can tell he was like a fan of them. He knew more about them than just like some super layman's like understanding of like reading Wikipedia. There are videos he's done where it's like, all right, you don't give a f- clearly. But there are other videos he's done where it's like, I can tell he clearly did care. I'm telling myself this is for a good cause. Awesome.
But then that's what you're getting at.
No.
Yeah.
Well, the money is nice, but I made enough from it that I'm good.
Yes, at least a few times in this interview posted to YouTube, he confirms a general and total lack of interest in music, even confirms that he has never actively sought out listening to bands like System of a Down.
You like just seem like such a wealth of knowledge. Like you knew so much about the topics you were talking about that I was like, dude, I can't make content. Like I don't know, like the encyclopedia history of all these bands. But like,
well,
you
neither
just
do I. It's just like literally look it up on Wikipedia. I don't know. Like I've never listened to System of a Down in my life.
I mean,
that I do believe that. I mean, the thing is, he's definitely heard a few System of a Down songs, but I feel like I've heard him talk about. I guess it's not super surprising to me he would say that because I feel like I've heard him talk about like I don't give a shit about System of a Down whatsoever, right? I feel like I've definitely heard him say that before. Or like Deftones. I don't think he particularly likes Deftones or, Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. Like, that's not a super surprising thing to me, that in particular. But I just feel like it's such a reductive thing. Maybe I'm glazing here. I feel like it's so reductive for him to just be like, I don't care about music at all. Like, I don't think that's really true. Sing, please. Oh, we reached the goal, dude. No, we reached the goal. We reached the goal, dude. What the hell do we do, dude? What have I done? Now I have to do it. Now I literally, all right. Anyhow, back to the subject at hand.
Puts it a bit more bluntly than that.
Encyclopedia history of all these bands, but like,
Well,
you
neither
just
do
came,
I.
like,
Just like literally look it up on Wikipedia. I don't know. Like, I've never listened to System of a Down in my life.
I mean, he puts it a bit more bluntly than that. I want to give the guy some credit because I'm presuming at some point across his lifetime, he has to have heard like chop suey in passing, no? But yeah, despite the fact that this man has made content about System of a Down, he claims to have never really listened to them, which I guess...
I mean, I believe that 1000%, like I said, but okay, when he was talking about Day to Remember, he was like going into these like obscure videos they made on their YouTube channel that were like, it was like a Smosh parody mixed with like a Day to Remember when they were doing their album cycles for like, they did like a video for Those Who Have Heart, and then they did like a video series for Homesick. They did a video series for What Separates Me From You and Common Courtesy. Like, and he went into those and was like talking about them. He was talking about like the history of the band and how much he was a fan of them. Like, I don't know, like, I just don't buy that he like never gave a shit about any of the bands. Like, I'll bring up like an example where he like clearly, unless he's just being a complete liar here, I don't think it's as reductive as like, I never cared about music at all. Thanks for the dono, Tereshi.
What's up, everybody? I'm Finn Mckenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA. Today, we're here to talk about a day to remember. We're here to talk about how they got so big. This is part of an ongoing series where I deconstruct how important bands got big. If you're a nerd like me who just likes to figure out how things work, likes to reverse engineer things, then hopefully this will be fun for you. If you're in a band or you have a product or maybe...
Like, he seems like, he seems enthusiastic. He seems interested. I don't know. Hold on, we'll keep watching this. I remember in this video, he talks about when he found out about the album Homesick and how much he loved it.
If you're just into marketing, then hopefully you'll get some inspiration and ideas. Okay, so let's get into it. If you're watching this, I'm guessing you are pretty familiar with the Day to Remember, but just in case you aren't, the band started in 2003 in Ocala, Florida. They have 6 albums out. They run their own festival. It's called Self-Help Festival. They have their own label. They even have their own recording studio. Their 2009 album Homesick went to #1 on the independent charts, and their 2016 album Bad Vibrations went to #2 on the main Billboard chart. Homesick and What Separates Me From You are both certified gold. That means they sold over 500,000 copies. And their single, If It Means a Lot to You, went platinum. Guys, that means it sold over 1 million copies. Altogether, they have sold over 2 million albums and God knows how much merch. So how did some metalcore kids from a crappy town in Central Florida end up selling millions of albums?
Maybe it was this album.
Ocala,
because he's made multiple of them. So this was like a few years later. He kind of did another video about them. And I did notice, I think the singer Jeremy follows him on Instagram. Let me see here. Homesick. I know there's some part where he talks about Homesick. Yeah, here we go. This part. Yeah. When are we getting the Tom X Nick LGBT stream? Great question. Why don't you use ADTR song covers? I mean, there's just a lot of music I like out there is the thing. Like, there's a lot of different music that I like out there that I just, there's a lot of different songs that I like to use. It's not all just rock stuff. Like, for some videos, it fits more to put like a dance pop song or something. It's more fun, Long-time bid watcher, new to the actual streams. Need to hear that sweet Bulgarian femboy voice again. All right. Well, listen, we're only at 1 out of 50 of the goal because I set the dono goal I set it to $10 minimum to reach the goal. So we're not going to reach the goal this time, which is good. Only yellow super chats count. All right. I'm safe. We've only gotten 2 people donate to the goal, I think, or 1 actually. 49 to go. You're right. Thanks for the dono, Sebaceous Mace. I have no idea what you're talking about. You're a fan of Eggy. I like his song White OJ.
Really hit their stride with their next album for Victory called Homesick, which came out in 2009. And this is where I became a huge fan of the band.
Look at this. He owns a physical copy of the album.
I had heard them before, but for whatever reason, I just kind of didn't really pay attention.
It's like this nice like fold out version. I don't know. I don't really buy that he never cared about these bands.
But a friend of mine gave me a copy of the album and he was like, you need to listen to this. I think you're going to love it. And he was right. I put it in, and as soon as I heard this, I was pretty much in love.
But when you watch some of his other videos more recently, I would definitely say you can tell that like he did not give a like with 3 Days Grace. Let's just look at this video.
3 Days Grace is a band that surprised me a lot in that it really seems like they shouldn't be as big as they are. Like, if you asked me back in 2007 or something if they would even be around in 2024, I would have laughed at you, let alone that they would be one of the biggest names in alternative rock. But that is exactly what they are, with over 12 million Spotify listeners, 6 albums in the Billboard Top 10, 3 of which...
Like, a lot of this is like very cursory, simple knowledge that anyone could get. And I'd say to some extent, he seems like he's kind of phoning it in by this point. But you know, he seems much lower energy too. He seems like he just doesn't really give a shit. But I don't know. I don't really buy that he never cared about music at all whatsoever. I don't personally buy that. We'll keep watching Anthony and see what his takes are.
Yes, you have to presume is the case for maybe a lot of the artists that he talked about on his channel on a regular basis. But when you analyze, I guess, like, the genetic makeup of Finn's content for the most part, I guess, like, it's not that hard to believe, because a lot of his videos would have more to do with kind of like the historical background and context of a certain band, how they started, where they started, what their influences were, like what basically the musical and, again, contextual DNA of a certain group or genre was within the era that it existed. Which, yeah, I guess you don't necessarily have to be a big music aficionado in order to research these facts and bits of information and then compile them into a video.
Well, yeah, and that's what you said. I heard you say that one time in an interview. You're like, yeah, I just basically read her Wikipedia page and I'll show up some pictures and some, context.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, technically I could, without ever having heard a Velvet Underground song, for example, probably use the internet to find a bunch of information about the Velvet Underground and who's in the band and what songs they wrote and which songs are the biggest and what they inspired and what other artists kind of borrowed from them and what artists they borrowed from and so on and so forth, and incorporate some stuff about Andy Warhol in there somewhere. Yeah, especially with my journalism degree, I probably could pull together such a video about a band such as VU without having heard their music. However, would I do that, especially as a YouTuber, like just starting out and trying to build a channel? No, probably not. Not only because that would be a little disingenuous, but on top of that, the process of making that video would be pretty grueling, and it would be odd to me personally to sink all of that effort into something that I wasn't even really all that invested in.
I think that this is like this kind of conversation, though, which is a valid conversation to have because music is a lot more personal to people than, a lot of different things. But like, if you look at someone like Sunny V2, right? Like Sunny V2, let's look at his channel. He makes video essays. He's been doing it for a while. He's pretty good at making video essays, I would say, considering how successful he is. People do like to watch them, whether you think they're most in-depth or not. I would struggle to believe that Sunny V2 cares about everything he talks about, or even most of the things he talks about. I highly doubt he cares that much about MTV Cribs. Or like rappers who responded to Anthony Fantano. But, if there was some clip that came out of Sunny V2 saying he doesn't care, I don't think anyone would give a shit because, first of all, the videos are very impersonal. It's not really about how he feels about it most of the time. But secondly, on top of that, like, I think the other perspective to acknowledge is that he talks about like YouTube rise and falls, which to a lot of people, they're less invested in once they just see the video. It's like, all right, that's it. I'm not that personally invested. Versus someone like Finn Mckenty, who makes videos about music, and people who listen to music and listen to these bands love that kind of stuff. So they have a much different perspective on like how much it means. So to them, I think a lot of the people who are really mad at him are like, it's a very like he's a poser argument, right? He's like a music poser. He doesn't actually care about any of the stuff he's talking about, and that's bad because the music means so much to us, and he's like representing the band and talking about their history as if he cares, right? I think that's part of the problem that Finn has run into essentially with, like I said, a lot of the more recent videos he's made. I still think there are videos he's made where he did care about music. I don't think it makes sense that like he never cared about music whatsoever, but I think at some point he only cared about the videos he was making. A lot of them, he only cared about them insofar as he was making a video about it. I don't think he cared about the music itself
in the first place. But in this interview with Jesse Lee, that's essentially what Finn admits to doing. And again, you may be wondering, like, if Finn has no interest in music at all, why was he doing this all of this time? Well, I mean, short answer, the money. I mean, that's literally what he says in the interview. And he is now quitting now that he has reached his financial goals. So I guess he has made enough money. Now, instead of doing YouTube, he just wants to focus on LinkedIn and, maybe start some kind of thing where he is doing consulting for.
What does that mean? Focus on LinkedIn. Isn't LinkedIn just like a site that people use to get jobs? What does that mean? Focus on LinkedIn. Don't most YouTubers just do it for the money? I mean, it depends on the YouTuber. Some people, I would say it's a totally cynical thing where they just want to make money. Some people, it's more of a passion project. And for some people, it's like, it's a passion project that turns into making money. So then they kind of have to balance both of those things if they want it to be their job. So, I mean, the thing is, it kind of depends like on the person, for sure. I would say for me, it's kind of a mix where like, okay, it is my job at some level, right? Like I do like it as a job and it does make me money undoubtedly, but I still try to generally talk about things that I do care about or that I have some level of interest in because I want to enjoy the job. I don't want to grow to hate it over time. There are some times when I'll do a video where it's like, all right, do I care that much about the Hawk Tuah coin in and of itself? Not really, but I do find the drama around it and the controversy interesting enough that I can talk about it. But I would find it hard to make a video, I think, about something I didn't give a shit about at all, or at least to do that for a long period of time. Like maybe a one-off, I think I could probably manage it, but doing it for a long period of time, I think I would hate it. But that's, YouTube means a lot more to me than it means to some people. That is also the thing. That was Finn's only source of income. But the thing is, he seems to think that it's like not. The thing is, I don't think it ever was. Doesn't he own, he has like some kind of business where he sells like plugins for music producers or something, I want to say. I'm pretty sure he has other businesses. What does it mean to focus on LinkedIn though? I'm still like, what does that mean? What is like, has LinkedIn changed recently? I don't know about it. LinkedIn 2024. Like, isn't LinkedIn just a video not a video, just a website for like marketing yourself to employers to get hired? What does it mean to focus on LinkedIn? What the does that mean?
Or other people who are looking to make content and build brands and social media pages and so on and so forth, which I think he may see a very successful career in, given just how he was able to so cynically operate in the music field for so long with no real interest in it. Look, though, at the end of the day, I do want to give Finn just a touch of credit before I really kind of like lay into this story and say that, I wouldn't say that this channel and Finn's content didn't come from a place of love, at least a little bit. It just wasn't a love for music. And that's the thing. As you listen to this interview with Jesse Lee, if you do, it becomes very apparent that like what Finn's drive behind the Punk Rock MBA was really sort of like a desire to build himself up and market himself and sort of like, have a really first-person hands-on approach to the entire experience of building a brand from the ground up. However, building a channel such as the Punk Rock MBA is not merely just a general exercise in social media marketing. At the end of the day, it was in fact a music channel. So in order to execute that marketing and execute it well, you're going to have to engage at least a little bit on some level with the music world. And
the interesting thing to me, though, is like, until Finn said this, it seems like nobody gave a like, they didn't really have a big problem with his content. If they did, I didn't hear about it. Maybe that was the case. I know there were some people who didn't like him and thought his videos were kind of surface level, but I saw someone in chat be like, he sounds like a cope because his channel died. It doesn't look like his channel really died, though. He's still getting pretty good views. Like, these are, 100K, 300K, 250K. Like, that's pretty good. 400,000 on this one. That's pretty good hits for a channel, especially where you're just talking about, like, these 20-year-old bands. I think he probably blew up. He kind of created a market where people wanted something from him. He kind of just kept doing that until he just, like, despite not giving a shit about some of these bands, he kept doing it until he just didn't care anymore. I think it's kind of something like that. I don't think it was like he started it completely cynically and never cared about music at all, ever. I don't think that really makes sense to me. How many yellows for a Jake Doolittle duet where you sing and he dances? If we reach the goal, I'll put Jake Doolittle dancing on the screen. Should I invest 1,000 to a private company or Hawk Tuah coin? Definitely Hawk Tuah coin. That's gonna get you in a big place, dude. It's got to be Hawk Tuah coin. What else are you doing?
And music and drama in the music world.
Finn even made music. Didn't he make songs? I feel like he has like a Spotify where he made songs. I feel like he did. I remember him talking about he was making some like sludgecore, some like super obscure genre no one cares about. He was making like songs in that genre. I don't think he never cared about music ever. That just seems like a very, very reductive way to view it.
world, news stories in the music world, the history of the artists that you're engaging with on a regular basis and their fan bases, which Finn sort of displays open contempt for at multiple points in this conversation. He really kind of reduces a lot of the viewers to some of his content down to just being like
smooth-brained, low vibration people just want some negativity to
yeah,
blurt out their dumb opinions about.
Which
why is he so bitter? What is this interview? Where is this interview? Can I actually see this whole thing? Because he seems so bitter. Why Finn Mckenty quit YouTube?
Why did Finn Mckenty stop uploading YouTube videos?
I don't have any plans to do anything on YouTube.
Finn is one of the OGs in music content creation, and he's gained millions of views on his Punk Rock MBA channel and his second solo channel. So why did...
I don't like music. Hilarious coming from the guy who had to remind the entire world he went to hardcore shows in the 90s constantly. That's what I'm saying. I think he does care about music. I think he did at some point in time. I think he just didn't care about it to some extent at some point. Mute mic and turn off cam. Good idea.
he suddenly stop?
I don't really have any interest in music. I was just doing it for the money, and I hit my financial goals. Our time on this earth is limited. Like, don't spend it doing shit you don't have to do if you don't want to, you know? So I don't have to keep making videos about System of a Down.
Also on the show, we talk about whether bands are really to blame for high ticket prices, the powerful effects of nostalgia, how he now helps others.
Don't skip the intro, Dillweed. I think I will.
Well, do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day, chat with me here on the
Yeah, of
Jack
course.
Lee Show.
Of course.
I can't believe this is the first time we've ever actually been like virtually face to face after all these years. Like we've had a lot of text message threads and DM.
He's a punk rock fan. Of course he's bitter. Well, he is bitter, but also like he was a punk rock fan who kind of like, because for a lot of people who are into punk, like they hate the idea of making money or profiting off of music. That's the thing they really hate. So I think maybe part of it, for at least the audience perspective, is like this guy calls himself punk rock, but then he just sold out, made a bunch of money off of making music videos, which, you know, I personally, you know, I'm not in that camp, so that's not really something I care about that much, but I think that's definitely part of why people don't like him. I've seen some comment sections on YouTube where people are like, it's so disgusting, he calls himself punk rock, but he isn't really punk rock, you know?
DMs and stuff for the first actual full-on conversation.
It's like our weird, you know, first date after being an online couple for months, you know, and finally I fly you out,
Right.
you know, and we're like, so what do you want to do? Want to play
It turns
some
out I'm
Smash
real.
Brothers? Yeah.
Yeah. Like you don't look exactly like your pictures, but
Right.
you know,
It's close enough.
we can work with it. Dude, you were actually one of the very first kind of music YouTubers I started watching. And like you actually like kind of scared me away from even trying content creation initially.
Why
Because
is
like
that?
you like just seemed like such a wealth of knowledge. Like you knew so much about the topics you were talking about that I was like, dude, I can't make content. Like I don't know like the encyclopedia history of all these bands, but like,
Well,
you always
neither
just
do
came,
I.
like,
It's just like literally look it up on Wikipedia. I don't know. Like I've never listened to System of a Down in my life.
well, yeah, and that's what you said. I heard you say that one time in an interview. You're like, yeah, I just basically read her Wikipedia page and I'll show up some pictures and some, you know, context, and which is crazy because like you would think like you'd have to have like a vast.
To defend him a little bit here, though, I do think this is very dependent on the video. I think this is undoubtedly dependent on, you know, I think a lot of the more recent videos, like I said, I feel like a lot of it is like not caring. But as this guy points out, it's hard to believe someone who would have 2 hate breed tattoos and a Morbid Angel tattoo would not care about music. Seems like those comments were made with resentment for the hate comments. What were the hate comments? What did he get a lot of hate? I know sometimes he would kind of tacitly acknowledge like black metal fans suck, or this genre of fan, this kind of fan doesn't like me for whatever dumb reason, but it's kind of hard for me to totally understand.
It's like, you know, knowledge of these bands, like a deep appreciation to, but you said you kind of just looked at it more like almost like a product basically, right?
Yeah, there's some where I know a lot. Like if I'm friends with someone in the band or something like that, or, you know, there's somewhere whatever I saw them
maybe
when they first started out 25 years ago or something like that. There's some of those where I definitely know a lot just from sort of personal experience, but the majority I would say I don't.
Yeah. So what made you start making videos in the first place?
The reason I started YouTube was back in 2017. I think it was September of 2017. And I kind of found myself in a place in my career where I had done a lot of stuff that I was proud of, that I thought was pretty cool. For anybody who doesn't know, I guess most people know me from...
I feel like he covered all the music he liked early on and then ran out of ideas and subjects that actually mattered to him. Yeah, I'd say that's probably true. I'd say that's probably quite accurate. Because like I said, there were clearly, I don't think it's just the A Day to Remember video. I haven't seen a lot of his videos in a little while, so I could be off base here. But I think there were definitely bands where he wasn't necessarily just friends with people in the band, like he said. Like, he did listen to their music and like it and was a fan of it. You can tell that much. I do think as time went on, I think he started talking about topics he didn't give a shit about because, he just knew that it would do well. But I don't really buy that he never cared about any of what he was talking about. That doesn't really make sense to me.
From YouTube, but my actual sort of career has always been in product design and marketing. So I started doing that kind of, I guess the first like real kind of design job I got was in 2002, I think. Yeah, 2002. A guy named Chase Jarvis, who some people know, he's become sort of a really well-known photographer and started a company called Creative Live. Back then, he was just sort of a local photographer, and he had an ad agency. At the time, I sort of ran into him at the print shop I worked at, got a job there, did some stuff for like Nike, Nintendo, Red Bull. It was not, the work I did for them was not great. So I apologize to our clients, but I kind of got my foot in the door there. Then I worked at another agency where I did a lot of stuff for Procter and Gamble, like Tide, Febreze, Swiffer, Bounce, like a lot of big sort of fabric care brands, stuff like that.
You were in charge of putting the arsenic in the powder, right?
That's Johnson & Johnson. Never did anything for J&J.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, he definitely was, like I said, as Anthony even pointed out, like he definitely was very much a marketing guy who a lot of the time would talk a lot more about the marketing of different, bands and their music and how they package their stuff rather than just like sort of a, this is how the music is broken down and the music theory. He never really focused on that. But I think that's part of what made his content work, is the majority of people who listen to music, they don't know anything about music theory. I don't really. They just want to listen to a band and enjoy the music, and then they want to watch some guy talk about their career if they're a super big fan to see how they rose and fall. They don't want to hear about like, the music theory of whatever metalcore band Finn is talking about this week.
Well, actually, that's not true. We did some work for a brand called Ethicon that did medical devices that's owned by J&J, but none of the J&J CPG stuff. And then after that, I did design and marketing for Abercrombie and Fitch for a couple years. After that, I worked
basically.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a social media following. It's just sort of like I just found myself, like, people just didn't care about me. Like I couldn't, when I applied for jobs, I kind of never really got anywhere with it. My professional network was not good. It just sort of, when my name came up, it just didn't really mean anything. And
it's such a weird thing to say here, because by giving this interview, I feel like he's like, did he not expect that the comments he made would be talked about? Like, by giving this opinion that he doesn't care about music after appealing to music fans, like, obviously that's going to have a negative association with his name. Like, he'll get visibility, but for the wrong reasons. Like, it'll be kind of a bad look to work with him in the future. So I'm curious why he even said this. You know what I mean? Finn's condescending tone throughout all of this and his just for money approach completely undermines everything he's ever done. The dude also ran a podcast and interviewed a crap ton of other musicians. Now he's trying to spin a yarn of him never actually giving a shit. Complete attitude. Yeah, but that's why it doesn't make sense to me, this idea that he never cared. He didn't never give a shit. He just doesn't care now because he's left it behind. How do you think you would feel if your boss, an audience is effectively a boss, forced you to talk about an aspect of your job that you have no interest in for several years, instead of talking about the part of it that you're actually passionate about? It doesn't really add up. He always gave a vibe of being passionate about music and talking about it from the lens of someone who watched the scene happen and grow from the start. Notice his demeanor when referencing Linkin Park or Alien Ant Farm or CKY. He's brushing it off like someone who never genuinely cared about the music to begin with, which is what he seems to want everyone to believe. Yeah, it's almost like self-harm. It's like he's like trying to make everyone hate him more. For what reason? This guy has a pretty salient comment. I feel like what probably happened is he was genuinely interested in it when he started. Then once he started making money off of it, it also became a job. Over time, the growing hate towards him combined with him having to make what the people wanted, not what he wanted. In order to get a paycheck, it killed any remaining enjoyment he got from it, resulting in him not caring about the content and only being in it for the money. With so many people rooting for his downfall combined with being burnt out, it doesn't surprise me that he took it out when he had the chance and left in a jaded, bitter state, wanting nothing to do with the music content creation scene anymore. He's been open about his mental health struggles in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me if all this pushed him into a place where he's become spiteful and standoffish as a way to keep the cause of the problems at bay so he can move on with his life. That's probably true. I don't know why, what was all the negativity? I feel like with negativity, you just kind of ignore the parts you don't want to see, and then with the parts that, you think are valid, you just kind of like take it on the chin and move on and try to improve whatever you do, Even like he had a second channel where he streamed on Twitch and he would like rank albums. You can't rank albums by never listening to them, and he had like genuine commentary on the albums as well. Like he did like give his thoughts quite a bit and like describe what he liked about the albums or what he didn't. And he interviewed a lot of musicians where he knew a decent amount about their catalog, like Avenged Sevenfold. He interviewed M Shadows. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't totally buy this idea that he never cared. Oh wow. Apparently I set the goal to I didn't realize I set the goal to like 10 minutes. So there's only 2 minutes left on the goal. I won't be singing a new song, it looks like. Damn, we won. Well, next goal I'll do for longer. I'll do it for like 3 hours. I didn't realize that I set it to like super short. But yeah, I did like some of Finn's videos. I could definitely tell he was phoning it in somewhere near the end, but I don't really buy this idea that he never cared about music in the first place. I think it's a little more complicated than that, to be honest. What are other people saying? Tank the Tech. This guy is friends with him, I think. Let's see what he had to say.
All right, so I guess we got to talk about the biggest thing that the internet is on fire with, at least in the music and YouTube community lately, and that is Finn Mckenty quitting YouTube, officially talking about it now. And the big issue, I guess, and I'll do this in my best like Reddit / internet chat room impression, is Finn Mckenty's a poser and he lied and he was only doing it for the money. Wah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, literally. Like, that's like all the headlines that are everywhere. But, before I really dive into all of this, it's like
Why did he call them smooth brain? I don't really get that. I'm kind of curious about what's going on there.
Doing YouTube for 4 years now, and my perception on doing YouTube as like a job has changed massively over the years, because before I started doing this stuff, I really did think it was like really easy. You just make content, you post it, and that's it. And it's like, whenever I would hear YouTubers complaining about being burned out and stuff like that, I'm like, that's just dumb. I don't get that. But I absolutely do get it now, because it is not as easy as you think once you get to a certain level. Like, if you're bringing in full-time revenue and income and posting normally and stuff like that, I mean, dude, it takes up a lot of time, a lot more time than I ever thought it did. I mean, you got to, plan your videos out, or if you're lazy, you can just record them on Twitch. Well,
this is definitely true, but it seems like towards the end, Finn was not really trying his best. He was, like you said, he would just read Wikipedia facts about these bands, and he could probably get a video done in like 4 hours at that rate, right? It's kind of all, I feel like I could make, I'm not all of Finn's videos could I make better, but I feel like some of them towards the end, I could honestly, even as someone who has like a cursory knowledge of some of these bands, I feel like I could do a better video than he did on a lot of them. And even past that, I feel like some of the bands that I do care about, I feel like I do a much better video than he did, because it seems like towards the end, he wasn't really trying. He didn't really give a
Granted, in my own experience as a music commentator and reviewer, sure, if you go throughout the comments of any one of my videos, especially, the ones where the reviews are not very positive, yeah, you're going to catch a lot of negativity. You're going to catch a lot of hateful pushback on the stuff that I say and the opinions that I give. It doesn't feel good to get those kinds of comments and engagements on a regular basis. But if you are coming at this from a place of love and passion for music, what usually ends up taking the edge off of that inconvenience is the fact that you get to continue engaging with this art form that you love so dearly. And in the moments when you're not doing a negative review or sort of maybe a critical assessment of something that people might not receive well, you also get the opportunity to heap praise on artists and projects and records that actually are fantastic and worth people's time and are worth praising and being excited about. And yeah, I could sort of see from Finn's perspective, if that is not something that drives you and that is not something that you're interested in, then yeah, the process of doing a music channel in any form, even one that's mostly just around history and context, would become very tiresome and really grueling over time, because you're constantly dealing with an audience, with a crowd of people who frankly you don't really identify with in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, here's kind of a theory as well. It's like, okay, so he starts phoning it in and making videos that the audience wants to see about bands they want to see. But he's not really trying his hardest. He's not really trying. So he gets a lot of hatred for it, and that makes him start to hate that aspect of the audience. So it's like there's kind of no winning, right? He's making videos that on one hand are doing well and making money, but he doesn't really care about the subject. And because he doesn't care about the subject, he's not doing a very good deep dive or making great analysis. Therefore, people who actually care about the bands hate him. So he like just grows an audience of people who like the people he's appealing to, he doesn't particularly like. They're just making him money. They're just dollar signs to him. The people he's not appealing to, who don't like him, they just hate him. right? I used to watch this dude when he started. It was obviously did care about the music at first. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's as simple as he never cared in the first place. So yeah, Finn Mckenty, I guess at this point he's kind of torched his legacy with a lot of music fans. I don't really hate him, but I get why people are like giving him a lot of shit. I do understand that. I feel like it's almost like he like wanted to make himself look bad with the stuff he was saying. Like there's no way he would have not seen how calling the people who like his videos smooth brains would go. I'm curious if he'll ever respond, but he might not. You see a lot of videos. He's sad. He's a dirtbag. We just talk about Finn McGrifter. Finn McKenty's a fraud. My response to Finn McKenty bailing on his audience. The real reason Finn McKenty quit YouTube. A lot of people are talking about this guy. A lot of it seems mental health fueled. It may be. I mean, I'm not inside his head, so it's hard for me to say. But yeah, I don't think that the story of Finn is just as simple as he never cared in the first place. It was always a grifter. I don't think it's as simple as that. But I also, I think there are some criticisms to be made with the content for sure. Wyatt X Him made an interesting video on him. Wyatt X Him, this guy.
Punk Rock MBA, aka Finn Mckenty, has quit YouTube. I want to do a video about this individual for the third and final time to complete, I guess, this unofficial trilogy I've done on this guy, because there is a lot here we really need to discuss.
All right.
Regardless of what you think of Finn Mckenty, you love him, you hate him, or you're somewhere in between, he is a part of the whole alternative, metal, hard rock, YouTube community sphere, regardless of what I think of him. And obviously from what I've uploaded about him over the past handful of years, I
feel like he's the biggest one, is he not? Like if you look up like the history of Slipknot, if you look that up, I mean, there are videos from these kind of like less personality based channels that talk about it, Rock Feed or stuff like that. But I mean, Finn is up there, right? He's definitely up there. And he's one of the few guys I think that, when he does these videos, he does show his face. So once again, I just feel like it's not as simple. I feel like first of all, it's not as simple as he never liked music in the first place, but also he was like the biggest guy in the scene who I think people thought cared.
tend to disagree with him more often than not. But see, here's the thing. YouTube was established in, February 14th, 2005, if memory serves me right. And it's still under the 20-year time gap of its age. It's still a very young platform. So hearing about a YouTuber, content creator, whatever you want to call me and the rest of the individuals that are part of this, it's still something really new and unheard of to hear when a YouTuber calls it quits. I mean, as it stands while I'm recording this video, the Punk Rock MBA...
All right, we'll make an easier goal this time. All right, easier goal. Set the timer to 2 hours, all right? We'll do a 20 super chat goal, all right? The last goal I made too short. I didn't realize it. We have a different goal, all right? new goal. We reached the goal. We didn't reach the last goal, to my dismay, but we have a new goal. Do you have YouTube's birthday memorized as well? No. 2005? When was YouTube created? February 14th, 2005, in California. Whoa. YouTube came from California? That's very dark.
channel is a little over 600,000 subscribers, which sadly for YouTube standards still isn't really that big when you compare it to the biggest channels out there that are in the tens of millions. It's minuscule, yes, but for music related content, when it comes to either critiquing it, discussions, or reactionary stuff about it, this is massive. It really is, because the only other individual that comes to mind that had a larger sub count than the Punk Rock MBA that at least I know of is Anthony Fantano.
But Fantano does a very different kind of content. I mean, he does do like, they would both do analysis on music and like the music culture, like as far as the Fantano channel. But Anthony at the end of the day is like, he's like a tastemaker. He reviews songs. That's what he got big for, right? He reviews songs, he reviews albums. So he's kind of in a very different position than Finn is. And Anthony's also been doing it for like 15 years, maybe even longer than that, right?
So again, I just want to reiterate, even though this is more of like a drama video that I try not to do, please understand there is a bit of a personal connection here, because he's still a really huge part in the involvement, again, regardless if you like him or not, of this whole YouTube community that I am a part of, whether I like it or not. A handful of days ago on a YouTube channel called Jesse Lee, it would be uploaded a video of Finn Mckenty announcing why he quit YouTube. The interview goes on for roughly around 40 minutes, give or take, and there's really not much to talk about there other than what people have been consistently criticizing and quoting from Finn on certain key aspects. As the real reason as to why he quit YouTube is that he reached his financial goals. He only did it for the money. He was never interested in music, and he was just getting tired of the mundane routine of consistently talking about either what was trendy, new metal, what was happening in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and of course has to do one final jab at something popular in the alternative scene, stating that Linkin Park peaked in 2004. They're completely washed up. What else can I talk about? For starters, the big thing...
Did he say that? I mean, I think that is a take that a lot of people honestly do have, though. Like, I think, you know, a lot of people will kind of caveat that with like, oh, I still like the stuff they did after. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But I think the majority of people who listen to Linkin Park, they listen to, whether they acknowledge this or not, they listen to Hybrid Theory and Meteora and maybe Menace to Midnight. And past that, they don't really care, right? Like, I like Linkin Park. I think they're cool. I like some of the stuff they've done after, you know, those 3 albums. But those are really the 3 albums I've listened to. I don't really care about stuff past that, to be honest. But I mean, is that like a super hot take to give that? I guess, he's joking about it a little bit, but...
The thing that a lot of people are criticizing him for is that he outright said, I only did this for money. I have no interest doing it. I reached my financial goals, and that's it. And I believe that mainly because he's always been so upfront with it, from always talking about the business side of the alternative scene and the marketing strategies, to his Patreon that he always plugs, the product placement that he always does. Yes, Finn has always made it upfront that money was a big motivator for him. And while I understand it's a source of income, times are tough in 2024, I think what makes it so distasteful, and for me at least idiotic, is it's distasteful because, you know, you're doing it in such a blunt way to your viewers that appreciated whatever, you know, you were providing to them. And to just state that, I just looked at you as dollar bills is really degrading regardless of what you think of Finn Mckenty.
I feel like that was probably not his intention from the start, though. I feel like he grew to hate them over time. Because he, like I said, he accumulated an audience of people who wanted to see rise and fall videos about a specific set of bands that he didn't really care about. So he makes the videos for them. He doesn't really give a shit about the videos he's making. And then the people who don't like those videos, who are actual fans of the content, or not actual fans, not like the people who watch this stuff aren't actual fans, people who care about a more in-depth analysis and not a super surface level Wikipedia summary, right? Those people don't like the videos because it's like, you know, it's very surface level. It's very reductive. It doesn't really get into the, you know, the weeds of the situation. So I think he just kind of lost on all fronts. Linkin Park peaked in 2017. What album was 2017? Was that The Hunting Party? One More Light? Oh, were you joking? Was that a dark joke? Was that edgy humor? Edgy.
What I just personally find idiotic about it, and I always have, is that when you make your relevancy on social media a steady source of income, I think that's very foolish and you will burn yourself out. Considering just how rampant and quick social media is with like posting stuff, and you could just be out of the trend in just a few simple days, you're going to burn yourself out, and it's just an uphill battle that you're bound to lose.
I mean, I think you're not bound to lose it if you do care about what you're talking about. But if you don't, and you're just doing it for the purpose of, you know, like he said, meeting your financial goals, then you will get burnt out. And it's not even just burnout. It's like, because burnout is usually, I feel like when I hear about burnout, it's like, okay, I'm making videos, you know, all the time. You know, people are demanding more and more from me. I feel like I have a obligation to make content, but I'm getting tired of it. I feel like that's usually what burnout is. It's like you're overworking yourself. What he had is like a very different thing. It's a very, very, very different phenomenon.
The other claim that people have been criticizing heavily about Finn is that he stated, I was never in it for the music. I have no interest with it. And that claim by Finn, I do not believe even in the slightest for a multitude of reasons. Regardless, again, of what you think of him, he is consistently around the alternative music scene. He's consistently talking about it. Yes, it's the marketing side of it, but there's other ways of enjoying music than just the sounds it makes, which I know this gets into like poser territory, that he's just posing as a fan, but regardless, you are still keeping up with it. And let me remind you that when I did my first response videos to Finn Mckenty a handful of years ago, a lot of people criticized him that he was a poser, he's not into it. And every time somebody did, he would always comment back, well, I've been listening to this music for 30 years. I have a Hatebreed and Morbid Angel tattooed on me. So really, you never covered those tattoos. You've always bragged that you have them, which is like a badge of honor for music fans to have a music-related.
Yeah, I think he grew to hate the fan base. Clearly, he grew to hate these people because if you never even cared in the first place, why would you respond to these people? Why would you be insecure about the idea that you don't care? Why would you be in your own comment section responding to people who are like, you don't care? You know, like I think that it shows that it's more complicated than I never cared. It's like he grew to despise the online landscape. I was rejected from investing into the private company because my net worth is under $1 million. How do I get $1 million fast? It's Hawk to a coin.
Image tattooed on their body. So again, for him to state, I have no interest in music, that's a load of. What I find just so extremely odd about this whole interview is that for someone like Finn Mckenty, who has always been so self-aware of his image, his brand, marketing, and the growth of his YouTube channel, he's always come off that he is the, very cheerful and positive, like, alternative businessman. So why now, someone who is self-aware, you don't just give that up, would then paint himself that he's the bad guy, he's the poser that you've always hated, he's that greedy.
Exactly. It's like it's on purpose. It seems like an intentional thing, or he's like doing very poor mentally, and it's like some kind of crazy misstep, slip of the tongue to reveal that you hate these people. But it seems like something you'd want to hide, the fact that you hate the audience.
Businessman that you've always called him for, that he just reads Wikipedia articles and there's not much else to it.
For becoming
this
a member.
Whole thing feels like a very polite way to tell his viewers that have been interested with him throughout the years to go f*** yourself. Which now begs the question, why would he do this? Why does he want to be remembered in this way going out? I truly believe that the reason why he did this was to deviate everyone's attention for the real reason they're criticizing him. I state this with confidence because Finn has always proclaimed, I check all the comments. I read all the comments, guys. I listen to what you have to say. Even Become the Night, when he did a video on what killed the Punk Rock MBA, even he brings this up in his interview stating, Finn, you're overdoing it. You're going to burn yourself out. You really shouldn't keep up with all of these comments. And while Finn may burn himself out, that's still not the reason why. Because what this tells me is he's clearly seeing what people are saying about him, and he's never brought it up. Because when it comes to negative comments,
he does bring it up a little bit though. Like he's done videos where he's like, Punk Rock MBA Reddit. He's like, I hate the Redditors, the stupid Redditors that respond to me all the time. They're dumb. It was on his second channel. I feel like we saw it. This channel, this is where he would clip his live streams. I swear he did some video where he was like, this is why Reddit doesn't like me. And it's like, I don't think it's that important.
Everybody, today we're going to have a semi-serious conversation. A semi-serious conversation here about some people who are not fans of me and my content. And what I don't want this to be is another one of these videos where some YouTuber complains and rah, says, poor me, I'm burned out, blah, blah, blah. But it is true that I am very burned out, and I think these people have some valid points.
Okay.
But what I don't want to do is just argue with a bunch of people who don't like me. So what I'm going to try to do is turn this into a larger conversation that hopefully you can maybe learn something from, because again, I don't want this to just be like, YouTuber guy talks about himself and how people don't like him and stuff like that.
I feel like it would be better off to kind of take the criticism. Like when I get criticism and it's like, right, because this has happened sometimes, like a lot of the criticism I get will be dumb, but I will get criticism where I see it on like, a comment section or something, and I'm like, that's actually right. Typically what I try not to do is like have some kind of giant public reaction to it. Instead, what I try to do is be like, okay, if this is right, how can I incorporate this into my content? Because at the end of the day, actions speak a lot louder than words. You're gonna get a lot more benefit from actually changing the way you operate and communicating that with your content, rather than just being like, oh my God, I'm changing everything around, guys.
Although I will do a little bit of that.
Yeah, seems interesting, dude. Seems interesting. So Yeah, there you go. There's a Finn Mckenty story. Wanted to dive into it. I know it's not something that, a lot of my audience cares about that much, but, as somebody who does, I was a fan of this guy's channel. I feel like, I don't know, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. I am interested in the subject. So, yeah.